Hi, students. How are you doing? Welcome to Naya. Same. Thank you so much for the support. Hope you all are doing great. So I came across this video and I thought I'd bring it here because some people think they are really smart. Now, what they do is go to Black people's comment section to drop anything they feel like. So this beautiful young woman was Cathy Black was talking about how Black people do not need people, right? The truth is that they have also proven to us that there is no need for unity or coming together and all that. And the fact that Black people were also able, like they've been predicting them all the time. Black people have given everybody the opportunity, the time, the space to work with them, and to work with them. But at each time they have given the opportunity, they still flop because that is not what they know how to do best, you know. And this person was saying that that Black people are they should not be condescending while talking about race. And Cardi is telling her that Black people should be more condescending when speaking about race. And that is absolutely on period. They think that, when people provoke you and expect you to still be calm while speaking to them because they feel like when they go high, you go high too, or when they go low, you go high. I mean, this one, anytime when you go low, we go lower. There is no time creating room for people that do not want any room because all this while, Black people have been carrying everybody along. They think it's a privilege. It is not a privilege, and that has already caught. I ain't nobody saving democracy. Let's get into this video.
Okay, so I saw this comment this morning and I wanted to talk about it because it was really interesting and funny to me. And it revealed the core of what I was criticizing in this video. So I thought it was pretty funny. And I wanted to talk about it because I think this is something that a lot of white people don't get is the issue. And like I said in many videos, I'm getting out of talking about this because one thing that I am coming to accept is that white people don't really have an interest in this, and we kind of see this now, right? Like there's a lot of white people who are just frankly humoring people of color, right? And I'm not just say people of color, I'm going to say Black people because I think what a lot of people don't get is that like racism is real. And I've said this many times. There's this assumption that a lot of white people have because I think this is the way that they process race, that Black people only want to talk about this stuff in order to like win, right? Black people only want to like talk about racism in order to be powerful, in order to like somehow win something, right? The reality is we want to talk about this shit because it hurts us. And as I've said many times, the most aggravating aspect of this particular response to racism is that had white people decided to actually work on bias and move beyond it, we would literally not talk about this. And it's really frustrating to me that so many white people think that the thing we would like to do the most is talk about racism. But I think it's because for so many white people, they understand that the things they do around whiteness, right, are in order to, reinforce some sort of victims mentality, right? So they think that that's what's happening with Black folks, right? Like, I'm just going to read this comment, then we're going to go through it. So this person says, it's simple. You want white people to be available for you to project your misery on, and we're not letting you anymore. Does this look like 2020 where we're listening and learning anymore, babe? So obviously this comment is condescending, right? Obviously this comment is condescending, but what is the comment essentially trying to say, right? This comment is basically saying, look, we've listened and learned and we're done. We've listened and learned and we're done. What is that supposed to suggest in the context of a Trump presidency? Now, here's the thing, right? Part of what aggravated me about the dialogue that we've been having about race and racism on here is that so many white people decided, instead of being honest about racism, instead of being honest about what actually is happening in this country, so many of you chose to plug your ears and ignore it. And when people like me said, hey, there's some racist shit happening. There's some racist shit happening around me. Your friends being racist, the schools being racist against me. I'm having a hard time, doing this and doing that because people are being racist against me, right? And then the response was, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. Racism is a thing of the past. And by the way, I'm not racist either. Actually, you're a bigot for saying that I'm racist, right? And so many of those people who said that, so many of those people who did that were racist. And I'm not saying, oh, they're racist because I want some sort of insult to use against white people. I'm saying that so many of you played in our face. And that was, I think, something that a lot of Black women were processing after this election, something I already started processing many years ago, because it can't be that we are so surrounded by all of these white people who are apparently on our side, who have apparently been listening and learning, and then look at the rate at which white people voted for Donald Trump, right? Seems to suggest that there were some people who were in that conversation who had no desire to actually do the things that they said that they were doing, who were simply wasting time, right? And the crazy thing about that is that a lot of white people, they see that waste of time as something that we should be thankful for. We should be thankful for them playing, I'm losing the words. I literally just woke up, but we should be thankful for them playing in our face, right? Pretending to give a fuck, right? And what I'm trying to point out in this conversation is that you only feel that way because of the narcissism that white supremacy allows for you to feel. It is incredibly arrogant and incredibly narcissistic to assume that people who are experiencing oppression would like for that oppression to continue just so that they have a scapegoat. And that's especially crazy to say to a Black person. It's especially crazy to say to a Black trans woman, right? In the time where Donald Trump is very loudly gearing up to use people like me as a scapegoat. Do you think I would like to live in that reality, or would I like to live in the reality where white people actually meant the things they said and stopped wasting my fucking time? It's crazy that so many of you guys don't get that the shit that you're trying to say about Black people is actually the shit that you can say about yourself. I don't need white people. Let's just really bottom line this so that you guys get it. I don't need white people. I don't need white people. White people make up 7% of this entire world's population. If every white person in the world died tomorrow, I would be very sad about it because a lot of my friends would go, but my life would continue on. And I would actually say that at that point, I would then be dealing with all of the people of color who needed Black people, because a lot of people need Black people in order to feel just that better about themselves. That's what's annoying to me about this comment. Do Black people need white people to project our misery onto? Or do white people need Black people to always have someone beneath them so that they can continue to feel powerful? Because what we saw in this election is that there were a lot of white people who disagreed vehemently with Donald Trump, but voted for Donald Trump because they felt that Donald Trump would continue the white supremacy power in this country. It's a little frustrating to me because people who say this shit to me, so I'm supposed to read this comment and get the impression that this is a person who's on my side, right? Like I'm supposed to say, oh, this person listens and learns. So clearly they're like a leftist or a liberal, right? But yet here you are doing some white supremacist bullshit. And that is the exact point that I'm making. a lot of you, you do this thing and you don't even catch it, right? You don't even fucking catch it. You do this thing where you accept that, you know what? It just takes so much for me to even start thinking about racism. And so if I'm going to have a conversation, just not even a debate, a conversation with a Black person, they need to start from this position of thankfulness that I'm in the conversation. And all the conversations we have from that point forward need to constantly be conversations where they're bowing down to me. See, what a lot of leftists don't really get is that we can work together. We don't need to fight. We don't need to debate. But when you come in here, and here you are, you've read a couple of books for a couple of years, and you're talking to people who have generations upon generations upon generations of political organizing behind their belt that they've done since birth, that they've done since they've had consciousness, right? And you're saying, you know what? We have the solutions. You don't. We have the reading. You don't. We did the reading. You didn't, right? You're operating from a position of white supremacy, a position of white supremacy that we don't expect for you to have if you claim to be on the left. But so many of you leftists are racist, and you don't want people to talk about it. And that's why so many of y'all don't have the support you do. Anyway, I don't need white people, they need me. Okay, so I wanted to respond to this comment because I just thought that this was really funny, because I actually think that the reason that this person feels this way has a lot to do with, I think, the base miscommunication that we have in conversations about racism. So I just want to lay this out there. I think white people and people who are not Black really underestimate the grace that they are experiencing when someone decides to sit with them and pleasantly, politely explain racism to them. Something that has personally really frustrated me is it takes a lot out of me to have these conversations. It alienates me in a lot of contexts because as much as we publicly don't want to admit it, I think most of us are very aware of how powerful white supremacy is in this country. And a lot of people are too afraid to break away from that to define themselves on their own 2 feet. So a lot of white people walk around with this constant fear of something usurping their position in society. And the real functional context where we tend to have these conversations about race, where a Black person would end up having to have a conversation with a white person about why what they're doing is racist. These tend to be contexts where someone's image is being disturbed, where someone is being seen as a racist, which is, of course, far more important to them than actually being and participating in racism. So the very base of this conversation, right? Kendra Awesomeness made a video, a series of videos, essentially defending Madeline Pendleton and using the work of Black people, essentially to do that. She looked at the tenets of white supremacy, said one of those things is politeness. I guess I can translate that into it is not, it's white supremacy to call out a white woman who I really like for being racist, right? Now, does it actually matter if the person's engaging in racism? No. What was the most important thing, the reason that inspired the video, was that everyone was talking about this person being racist, right? The image is the most important thing to a lot of white people. And I think the thing that I sort of started to accept many years ago when I started pulling away from a lot of these conversations is that I think a lot of people who are not Black are just never really gonna get how much it takes to talk about this shit, how much it takes to stand in the middle of a white supremacist society and say, I refuse, especially when you are somebody who is already immensely dehumanized. I think where a lot of you guys get fucked up is you don't get that this is the case. And so you function from this base assumption that because you are you are white. I don't know if this person's white, but we're talking about white people here for the most part, because that's who we end up talking to these having these conversations with. You end up operating from this perspective where, because you are white, this black person that you're interacting with inherently needs something from you. And so you treat them like, many of the different hierarchical relationships we have in the society where someone beneath you needs something from you, right? So what you're going to expect from someone who needs something from you is politeness, right? Now, on the right and the left, we have kind of two different ways of reaching the same conclusion, which is what I kind of talk about in this video, right? On the right, there are a lot of people who feel like, well, maybe we did some stuff way back when. Maybe some things fucked up way back when, but we're different now. We've moved on from that. We're not anymore in that position. I mean, the laws say so, right? So you need to be thankful as a black person for existing in this country where you're able to have as much freedom as you do now, because there was a time where you didn't have that much freedom. And on the left, you have people who know that they are in some way subverting the white supremacist narrative by, in their own way, allying with black people, right? And their perspective is, well, you need to be polite to me because I'm actually contradicting the narrative of whiteness that says that I should actually not be feeling this way, that I should actually be standing with other white people in order to maintain whiteness. And these white people are very innately aware of this. They understand that standing against white supremacy in their own way alienates them from their community. So it doesn't matter whether or not you are on the right or the left or wherever. If you exist in this country where you in some way interact with whiteness, you're always incentivized to see a black person as inherently beneath you. And that is the sense that is given in most of these conversations, right? And I think that that's where some of you guys don't get it. Because in this comment section, I actually got a couple of comments from people that were like, well, so how do we criticize black people? Do we just agree with them on everything? Which was really crazy to me, because what do I say in the video? I say that if you have a condescending approach to a black person's discussions of their political organizing for black people, right? You are operating from a position of white supremacy. Now, why is that? Because naturally, a black person is going to be the person who has the actual superior understanding of the issue. And we feel this way about every other context, right? There's a lot of things I don't know, right? Most of my partners are engineers, for example. I would not confidently speak about something related to engineering because it's not my expertise. It's not something that I really understand or know too much about, right? And I feel that way because I think in many other ways I've been discouraged from speaking up when I'm not an expert. But for a lot of white people, when it comes to what black people experience, when it comes to systemic racism, almost always in almost every context feel as though they are operating from a position of authority. There is no version of a white person who can't, to some degree, speak with authority about what black people should be doing. Right? People on the right say black people need to be thankful for the situation that they're in. People on the left say, well, I actually know the best way to address these issues within the black community. Right? And this is just a way of robbing black folks from, frankly, the authority they have in their own fucking conversation. And this robbing of authority is something that we sort of see very deliberately done by white supremacists. Woke as a term started in conversations between black people about becoming aware of white supremacy, becoming aware of the way that white supremacy has created this system that does indeed create hurdles for black people in this country. So what did white racists do? They said, oh, that woke thing these black people are talking about, that's trite. That's overplayed. That's stupid. And also, it doesn't just mean black folks. It actually means all these other things. And the only thing that allows them to do this is white supremacy. White supremacy imbues white folks with this idea that they are the smartest people in the room, even when they don't know what the room is about. Even when they can't read the room, they're the smartest person in the room. It's why Donald Trump can get voted into office despite very publicly describing the economic situation that, would put us back to the Great Depression, right? Like, it's crazy, but that's the reality that we're in, where white folks get to move through the world with authority that they frankly do not deserve. And simultaneously, black people can't at any point own or speak with authority about their experiences, positions, and understandings and ideas of what they go through. It's kind of crazy, actually. So what I'm saying in this video is that, yeah, it's condescending for you to assume black people don't know what the fuck they're talking about their own experiences. And I'll wrap up this whole point, by saying that you deserve to be condescended to. That's actually the proper order of things. You deserve to be condescended to. You're not an expert. In this context, yeah, you should be condescended to.
Let's talk about white privilege. But I grew up in poverty. That's the number one statement I hear from white people when we bring up white privilege. And believe me, I get it. I grew up in poverty too. We grew up in the white projects before my family finally saved enough money to put a down payment on a $40,000 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom house for the 4 of us. They converted the Florida room into my bedroom. If you don't know what a Florida room is, in Florida, they used to make these homes with nothing but jalousie windows that went all the way around. So that became my bedroom in a house that didn't have central air or heat. And we were dead broke, living paycheck to paycheck. But one thing I realized is that none of those struggles were based on the color of my skin or our race. And because I presented a certain way, blonde hair, green eyes, I could articulate my thoughts, I was always afforded opportunities. At the age of 19, I ended up signing to play professional baseball for the Atlanta Braves. By the age of 23, I was homeless. I suffered from severe mental health illness and also substance abuse disorder. I was arrested nearly 15 different times, 6 or 7 Florida county jails before I ever went to prison for the first time. I can't tell you how many times my dads came and picked me up from a trap house in a predominantly black neighborhood somewhere in Florida. In fact, one time I can remember I was in Jacksonville, Florida, in Springfield on the east side. I had just gotten out of Duval County Jail. The judge dropped the charges because they wanted to protect my baseball career. But at this point, I was too far gone anyways. I was homeless in the streets, walking around in Jacksonville, when I seen this black family come from a church. Now, I'd been in the same clothes for a few days. I was rough. And I'll never forget when she was like, "Boy, come here. What are you doing?" And they ended up bringing me in their house, offered me food, shower, and helped me to get in contact with my dad so he could come pick me up. And as I sit here and reminisce about this story, I can't help but to wonder what would happen if the shoe was on the other foot. If I was a black male, strung out on drugs, in dirty clothes, walking around in a predominantly white neighborhood, how would I have been treated? I can assure you that somebody probably would have called the cops and felt like I was a threat to their community, or maybe somebody would even try to take justice in their own hands. Because the truth is, white privilege doesn't mean that you didn't struggle. It doesn't mean that you didn't have a hard life or bad experiences. It just means that none of that was based on the fact that you were a certain skin color. And when I take a look at my life, my past, the good, the bad, the ugly, the fact that I have 14 felonies, that I've been to prison twice, I spent over 10 years in the Florida Department of Corrections, and I'm still able to stand here before you today with the amount of opportunities that I have had, I can't help but to recognize my privilege. And having that privilege isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's how you choose to use it. Are you using it to uplift other people? Or are you using it to kick the ladder down and forget where you came from?
So this is all I got from this video, and I love her content. She is really so good with this, and she does it amazingly great. The reality is that when it comes to a room, especially where Black and white people are, the reality is that they do not also see us as smart, or for them it is all about them and the rest of it. So that is something that we all have known, and I don't think it's a new thing. They have this feeling that they are superior, and that is how it's been, and I don't think it is new, right? And the reality is that as a white people, like, I don't know how they are always given grace and more of it, but people like me do not even get one grace. And indigenous people, but I am not here for indigenous people or any other group of people. I am just only here for Black people, right? Racism is something that I feel like I don't know if there is any way this is going to end, because the more you talk about it, the more you see that the majority of them knew what they are doing, but they choose not to pay, or not like they choose not to pay attention. They only, selective amnesia, right? They pick the one that they want to pick and leave the rest out. I mean, that all of a sudden we have reverse racism, just because they always want to be the center of everything. Like, just tell me, how do you think that you all want to be the center of everything going on, right? But that is what it is. Black people, sincerely speaking, I just feel like we do not need them. I understand that, how do I say, like, varieties, or like, coming together, standing together, unity and all that. But I personally feel like Black people have given them all the opportunity, to come together. They give them the room. I mean, they give them everything. Come together. Let's work this out. The truth is that Black people are always ready to work things out. Black people are also always ready to work with people to show you how to do it and how to get it done. One of the reasons why they actually started talking about this incoming election right on time. Sincerely speaking, they did a great job on how they how they talked about it. But in the end, I mean, the fact that they also came out to tell us that, they are voting blue and the rest of it, I knew they were lying, because I've been able to read how they always vote against their own interests, then come back in the end to tell you that, can we work this out? We know we made a mistake and all that. But I love the fact that Black people stood their ground this time, that there ain't anything like saving democracy or anything. Whatever you did, whatever that happens, we stay on it until the last time, and that is what is going to happen. So I am going to say, I am not sure we need anybody at this point in time, because they have shown Black people that there is no need, like, we're not here for you. So why do you want Black people to go around still looking for a way to bring people to the table when they do not want to be on the table, when they do not want us on the table? So I love the fact that Black people are doing their thing. Let them continue with what they think, what they are doing, because they absolutely know what they are doing. Sometimes I really used to make excuses for them and all that, but not anymore. I mean, I learned this from you. When people show you who they are, please do not give excuses, because that is them telling you who they are. Now, one thing I have known about them is the fact that they will keep going around on Black people's comment section, trying to talk rubbish, telling you how to feel, how to react, and then telling people do not be condescending. Like, what do you mean? Black people should be more condescending when speaking about race, and that is on period. And if you think we do not have to be more condescending talking about race, you are the problem. You know what? I am going to draw the curtain here, and I am saying happy holidays to every one of you. Thank you so much for the love. I mean, we've really come so far. And see you all in my next video. Bye for now.